Tell me, are you familiar with that feeling of slight irritation when a common cold, which used to pass in 3 days in your youth, now knocks you off your feet for a week, or even more? Just a runny nose, a cough. It seems like nothing serious. But why then do we increasingly hear alarming stories where a simple virus turns into serious problems for someone our age, and sometimes, alas, even a tragedy? The fact is, with age, our body is no longer the impenetrable fortress it once was. The immune system, our faithful guardian, works a bit slower, its reaction to an invasion no longer lightning fast. This is completely natural, like the appearance of wrinkles or gray hair, but there are also things we can control. Did you know that some of our seemingly harmless habits, or foods we've eaten for years, actually undermine our strength from within? They are like little traitors that, during illness when the body is weakened by a cold, open the gates to much more serious dangers. Imagine unknowingly leaving windows and doors open in your house before an approaching storm. That's how these hidden factors work. But there's good news. By changing just a few things, you can significantly strengthen your defenses, feel a surge of strength, energy, and peace of mind, even when everyone around you is sneezing. And these tips are simple, accessible to everyone, requiring no incredible effort or expense. I promise, after our conversation today, you will look at familiar things a little differently and feel more confident. Stay with me until the end, and together we will analyze 6 such hidden reasons. And the 4th one is something doctors, unfortunately, don't talk about as often as they should. Our first piece of advice: replace common sweets like candies, pastries, sweet buns, or even heavily sweetened tea coffee with natural alternatives. Fresh fruits, a small handful of dried fruits, or tea with a teaspoon of honey. Ah, how pleasant it can be sometimes to have tea with something sweet, right? Especially when the weather is bad outside or you're just feeling down. Let me tell you the story of Elizabeth, 73 years old. Elizabeth loved sweets. Her weakness was chocolate candies and shortbread cookies, which she always kept in a beautiful vase on the table. "What's life without little joys?" she used to say. But Elizabeth noticed that in recent years, any cold she caught was severe, with a high fever, and the weakness after the illness lasted for weeks. Her grandson, a medical student, once gently suggested that perhaps she should cut back on sugar a bit. Elizabeth was even offended at first. "What do you know? I've eaten it all my life and nothing happened. Sugar gives energy, everyone knows that." She felt internal resistance. Giving up her usual sweets seemed like depriving herself of the last joy, almost a betrayal of herself. But her grandson's words stuck with her. She decided to conduct an experiment, not to give them up completely, but to replace at least some of the candies and cookies with apples, pears, oranges, and put only 1 teaspoon of sugar in her tea instead of 3, or add a little honey. The first few days felt strange. Her hand instinctively reached for the candy vase, but she tried to shift her attention to a juicy apple or a fragrant orange. A couple of weeks later, Elizabeth was surprised to find that she no longer craved the unhealthy sweets as much. Also, it felt like her head had cleared up. The constant slight drowsiness after lunch was gone. When her husband came down with a bad cold in the winter, she, although infected, experienced the illness much more mildly. Her temperature wasn't high, and her strength returned faster than usual. Why does this happen? Sugar, especially refined sugar, in large quantities acts on our immune system like a sudden punch to the gut. It causes a sharp spike in blood glucose, followed by an equally sharp drop. This roller coaster exhausts the body. Moreover, studies show that excess sugar can temporarily suppress the activity of leukocytes, our main defender cells that fight viruses and bacteria. Imagine your immune cells are soldiers on guard, and sugar is like a sleeping gas that makes them sluggish and unable to react quickly to an enemy invasion. Fruits, on the other hand, besides natural sweetness, contain fiber, vitamins, and antioxidants. Fiber slows down sugar absorption, preventing it from hitting the body sharply, while vitamins and antioxidants are like extra weapons and provisions for our soldier leukocytes. Elizabeth, by replacing empty sweets with healthy ones, didn't just remove the saboteur from her diet. She began to actively supply her army of defenders. She felt not just healthier, but somehow more stable, more energetic. So, my dears, try to take a look at your sweet joys. Perhaps it's worth replacing at least some of them with nature's gifts. This isn't deprivation, but a wise choice in favor of your strength and vitality. Your immune system will appreciate such care. The second hidden reason, underestimating the importance of quality sleep for recovery. Our second piece of advice, replace the habit of staying up late in front of the TV or with a book, sacrificing sleep, with creating a calm evening ritual and aiming to go to bed around the same time. What's the big deal about sleep? I'll sleep when I'm dead. Some joke. Or, at my age, you don't need much sleep. Sound familiar? Let me tell you about Robert, 76 years old. Robert had been a night owl all his life. He loved reading late or watching old movies. He went to bed well after midnight and woke up feeling drained, saving himself with strong coffee. He often complained of fatigue, but attributed it solely to age. Robert also noticed he was catching colds more often, and each cold knocked him off his feet for a long time, accompanied by low energy and a bad mood. His doctor advised him to regulate his sleep schedule. Robert brushed it off. "Doctor, I sleep as much as I need. I tried going to bed earlier. I just lie there staring at the ceiling." Forcing himself to sleep seemed unnatural and even a bit humiliating, like he was a small child. His daughter suggested a different approach, not forcing sleep, but creating conditions for it. An hour before the intended bedtime, turn off the TV and bright lights, take a warm bath, or read a calm book under soft lighting. Drink a cup of warm milk or herbal tea, caffeine-free, and try to go to bed and wake up around the same time, even on weekends. Robert agreed to try, mostly to get his daughter off his back. The first few evenings, the ritual felt a bit artificial, but the warm bath was genuinely relaxing, and the dim light created a cozy atmosphere. He started falling asleep a bit easier. After a couple of weeks, he was surprised to realize he was waking up more refreshed in the morning, even before his alarm. He felt more energetic during the day, and his need for coffee decreased. Most importantly, when his neighbors on the landing got sick one after another with RV, acute respiratory viral infection, Robert held strong, only experiencing a slight tickle in his throat. Why is sleep so important? It's during sleep that our body conducts general cleaning and repair work. The immune system is actively working at night, producing cytokines, special proteins that help fight infections and inflammation. Chronic sleep deprivation, or poor interrupted sleep, is like not letting the repair crew finish their work in your house. Accumulated breakdowns weaken the entire structure. Imagine your immunity as a battery. At night, it needs to fully recharge to work effectively during the day. If you constantly prevent it from fully charging, its power drops and it drains faster when encountering a virus. Robert, by regulating his sleep, allowed his battery to charge properly. He didn't just start sleeping better, he strengthened his natural defenses, felt a surge of energy, and an improvement in his mood. Therefore, dear friends, treat your sleep with respect. It's not lost time, it's a vital process of restoration. Try creating your own pleasant evening ritual that helps you relax and prepare for sleep. Give your body the chance to fully rest and gather strength for the new day. Your body and your immune system will be very grateful. The third hidden reason, underestimating the impact of chronic diseases on the course of a cold. Our third piece of advice, replace the "it's just a cold, it'll pass" approach with careful attention to your chronic conditions during any illness, even a mild one. Many of us at this age carry some baggage, hypertension, diabetes, heart, or lung problems, and we get used to living with it. But here's the story of George, 80 years old. George had type 2 diabetes and coronary heart disease. He carefully monitored his sugar, took his medications, but when he caught a cold, he considered it a separate issue. "Well, I'll sneeze for a couple of days, lie down. What does my diabetes have to do with it?" He might even skip some medications if he felt too weak or simply forgot due to feeling unwell. It seemed to him that the main thing was to endure the cold and the rest could wait. One day, a common runny nose and cough lingered. George felt worse and worse, and shortness of breath appeared. When he was finally persuaded to call a doctor, it turned out his blood sugar level had spiked significantly, and his heart was under additional strain. He was hospitalized with a pre-heart attack condition, triggered, as it turned out, not by the cold itself, but by how his body reacted to it under the conditions of his chronic diseases, plus the disruption in taking his medications. George was scared. He realized he had almost brought disaster upon himself simply because he underestimated the connection between a common cold and his underlying conditions. After this incident, he changed his approach. Now, as soon as he feels the first signs of a cold, he not only starts treating it, but also becomes especially attentive to his diabetes and heart. He measures his sugar and blood pressure more often, strictly adheres to taking all prescribed medications, and immediately informs his doctor about his condition. Why is this so important? Any infection, even the mildest one, is a stressor for the body. This stress can cause sugar spikes in diabetics, increased blood pressure in hypertensive individuals, and additional strain on a weakened heart or lungs. Your chronic diseases are like smoldering embers. A cold can add fuel to them and fan the flames. Imagine your body as an orchestra where each instrument, organ, must play harmoniously. A chronic illness is an instrument that is already struggling to play, and a cold is like a suddenly appearing loud trombone that throws the whole orchestra off rhythm and particularly overloads the most vulnerable instruments. George learned to be the conductor of his orchestra and, during illness, pay special attention to those instruments needing support. This gave him a sense of control and security. Therefore, if you have chronic diseases, please do not ignore them during a cold. Be doubly attentive, follow all your doctor's instructions, and don't hesitate to seek advice at the first alarming symptoms. This is the key to your stable well-being. The fourth hidden reason, missing the window of opportunity to fight secondary bacterial infection. Here we are at reason number 4, the one that doctors, in the rush of appointments, don't always have time to explain in detail or emphasize in advance. Our advice here is critically important. Replace the persistent desire to tough it out and not bother doctors over trifles, especially if you suddenly feel worse after seemingly improving from a cold with seeking immediate medical help. This is a very common and dangerous trap. Listen to the story of Margaret, 75 years old. Margaret always prided herself on her resilience. "I'm not one to run to the doctor for every sneeze," she'd say. Recently, she had a rather bad cold, fever, cough, runny nose. After a week, she seemed to feel better. The fever subsided. She even started going outside. But the cough didn't go away, and after a couple of days, her temperature rose again. She developed chest pain when breathing and severe weakness. Margaret decided these were just lingering effects. "I probably didn't fully recover. I just need to rest more," she thought, unwilling to panic and go to the clinic. She felt an internal barrier. It seemed embarrassing to complain again after she had already started to recover. She endured it for another 3 days. When her son visited and saw her condition, he immediately called an ambulance. The diagnosis: pneumonia. The treatment was long and difficult, and Margaret took a long time to recover. The doctor in the hospital told her, "If you had sought help 3 days earlier, when the symptoms first started returning, things could have been much simpler." What's the essence here? A viral infection, the common cold, weakens our immune system and damages the mucous membranes of the respiratory tract. It's as if the virus picked the lock and left the door ajar, and bacteria, which are always around us and even inside us, but normally can't cause harm, can easily enter through this open door. These bacteria cause secondary infections: bronchitis, sinusitis, otitis, and the most dangerous, pneumonia, lung inflammation. Pneumonia is most often the cause of death after a cold in older adults. The insidiousness of the situation is that there is often a period of false improvement. The viral phase passes, you feel better, and then, a day or two later, the bacteria rear their heads and the condition worsens again. This moment, the return of fever, worsening cough, especially with yellow or green mucus, chest pain, shortness of breath, sudden weakness, is a critically important window when you need to sound the alarm immediately. These are not lingering effects. This is likely the beginning of a new bacterial attack. Margaret, having overcome her pride and false shame, now knows. If you feel worse after improving, it's not a trifle, it's an SOS signal. Please remember this rule. Improvement followed by deterioration during a cold is a red flag. Don't endure it, don't wait, don't think you're bothering the doctors unnecessarily. Your vigilance could save your health and possibly your life. Timely treatment of a bacterial infection with antibiotics, prescribed only by a doctor, is the key to preventing severe complications. The fifth hidden reason: decreased muscle strength affecting the ability to cough effectively. Our fifth piece of advice: replace a sedentary lifestyle, especially during illness, with simple breathing exercises and manageable activity, at least walking around the room. We often think muscles are only needed for walking or lifting weights, but they also play a huge role in breathing and coughing. Meet David, 69 years old. David spent most of his day in an armchair watching TV or reading. He wasn't overweight, but his muscles were weak. When he caught a cold, he tried to lie down as much as possible, believing rest was the best medicine. But his cough was always somewhat shallow, ineffective. He felt like something was stuck in his chest, but he couldn't cough it up properly. Because of this, his colds often dragged on, turning into bronchitis. He complained, "My lungs aren't what they used to be. I'm getting old." It seemed inevitable to him. A physiotherapist advised him to do simple breathing exercises, slow, deep breaths in and out, blowing up balloons gently, and also just getting up and walking around the room every hour, even during illness, if there was no high fever. David was skeptical. What good will these exercises do? I'm not an athlete. He felt lazy. The habit of sitting or lying down was stronger. But he decided to try, more out of politeness. He started with a few deep breaths in the morning and evening. Then he added short walks around the apartment. Gradually, he noticed that breathing seemed easier, like he could take a full breath. And during his next cold, he was surprised to find that his cough had changed. It was stronger, deeper, more productive. He was able to cough up the mucus that used to stagnate. The illness passed significantly faster and without complications. Why does this work? Coughing isn't just a reflex, it's an active, muscular act. To cough effectively and clear the airways of mucus and microbes, you need strong diaphragm and abdominal muscles. With age, especially with a sedentary lifestyle, these muscles weaken. Imagine old, flabby bellows for fanning a fire. They can't create a strong enough airflow. Similarly, weakened respiratory muscles cannot provide a powerful cough impulse. Mucus buildup is a direct path to infection. Simple breathing exercises and minimal activity help maintain the tone of these important muscles. David realized the issue wasn't so much his old lungs, but his weak muscles that he simply wasn't training. By restoring some strength to them, he regained the ability to effectively clear his airways. So, my dears, even if you are sick and just want to lie down, try to take a few deep breaths several times a day and walk around the room. Help your lungs work. Help your cough be an effective defender. This simple action can prevent big problems. The sixth hidden reason: social isolation and reluctance to ask for help. Our final, but no less important piece of advice: replace the habit of "I don't want to burden anyone" with a willingness to ask for help and maintain contact with loved ones, especially when you are unwell. Do you often catch yourself thinking, "I won't call the kids or grandkids and neighbors, they have their own lives, I don't want to bother them with my ailments"? This is very familiar to many. Here's the story of Barbara, 82 years old. She lived alone and was very proud of her independence. When she got sick, she tried not to tell anyone so as not to appear weak or stress her family. She went to the pharmacy herself, cooked for herself, endured the malaise in silence. It seemed to her that asking for help was a sign of frailty, and she was very ashamed of it. One winter, she caught a bad cold. Her temperature was high, and she was so weak it was hard to get up. She lay alone for several days, eating almost nothing because she had no strength to cook. Her medicine was running out, and she couldn't go out. She missed a phone call from her daughter because she was asleep. Fortunately, her daughter got worried and came over. She found Barbara in very poor condition, dehydrated, weak, with incipient signs of pneumonia. If her daughter hadn't come, who knows how it would have ended. This incident deeply frightened Barbara. She realized that her pride and reluctance to burden others had almost cost her life. After that, she agreed with her daughter and neighbor that she would definitely call them if she felt unwell, even if it seemed like nothing serious. She also started calling her friends more often herself, just to chat, share news. It turned out that her loved ones didn't consider her requests a burden at all. On the contrary, they were happy to help and be aware of her condition. Why is social connection so important, especially during illness? Firstly, practical help, bringing groceries, medicine, calling a doctor if needed. Secondly, emotional support, a kind word, care, just knowing you're not alone. This is a powerful factor that helps fight illness. Loneliness and feelings of isolation can worsen stress, weaken the immune system, and slow down recovery. Imagine a traveler in the desert. Walking alone is much harder and more dangerous than when someone is nearby who can offer water or support if you stumble. Barbara, by allowing herself to be a traveler needing help, not only ensured her physical safety, but also felt immense relief and warmth from the care of her loved ones. Therefore, my dears, don't withdraw into yourselves, especially when you are sick. Call your children, grandchildren, friends, neighbors. Ask for help if you need it. This isn't weakness, it's wisdom and self-care. And be sure to maintain contact with other older adults. Perhaps someone else needs your support. Staying connected means staying safe. So, we have looked at 6 hidden reasons that can make a common cold dangerous for us. As you can see, we are not talking about complex medical procedures. We are talking about paying attention to ourselves, about small but regular changes in our daily habits, in nutrition, hydration, movement, communication, in our attitude towards our health and our body's signals. You have lived a long, rich life. You possess great wisdom and experience. You deserve to feel good, energetic, and confident at any age. Don't let the treacherous cold and its hidden allies deprive you of the joy of life. Remember the stories of Elizabeth, Robert, George, Margaret, David, and Barbara. They were able to change their habits and feel the difference, and you can too. Start small, choose one piece of advice that seems most relevant to you, and try to follow it. Small steps eventually build a long road to health and longevity. You are strong, you are wise, and you can take care of yourself. Believe in your strength and be healthy.